Hello, and welcome to the Tuning In podcast. I'm Dana Evans, your inner voice and emotional support coach. In this podcast, we explore the deep wisdom that lives in our bodies, emotions, and inner voice. Together, we'll shed the layers that no longer serve us, creating space to tap into the flow of life and experience true ease. So, are you ready to join me? Let's dive in. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Tuning In podcast. I am recording here just coming out of a really deep hermit week, more than a week. I'm still kind of in the hermiting energy, and I had some requests on Instagram to share more about this. So I'm going to do a whole episode today about hermiting or your inner winter and what to do during that time, what it means, how to embrace it versus resisting or fighting it, and how to really use it to your advantage. So interestingly, this is my first episode that I'm recording coming back to the podcast. The last episode was in March of this year, 2023, and that was when I announced that we'd be moving. And since then, I have gone through so many layers of clearing, so many layers of unraveling. So much has happened. And in some ways, I wish I had captured it on the podcast, but the energy wasn't there. And as you know, as a listener of the Tuning In podcast, I really only share when I'm inspired and I have something to say. So I didn't have the inspiration, I didn't have the energy, so I wasn't sharing. This is okay. And now the energy is back. And so I'm getting back in the swing of things. So honestly, I'm in my new office, in my new house. It feels quite weird recording. I am so out of the flow of recording that it feels kind of uncomfortable. While I don't think this is the first episode I will release with the new season, it is the first one I'm recording. So bear with me as we get back in the flow, we reconnect with the energy of podcasting and sharing in this amazing audio format. If you're new here, welcome. Welcome to a new season. Welcome to the Tuning In podcast. We are going deeper and deeper and deeper into emotions, into the inner voice, into listening and connecting to the messages that your body has to share with you, and to really attuning to the blueprint and the energy of your whole body, of your emotional body, of your inner voice, of your energetic body, and really becoming experts in our own body wisdom. Because when you are an expert of your own body wisdom, no one else can manipulate you. They can't trick you. They can't force things upon you that you know are not right for you, because you are the one who has the knowing. You and only you know what is best and highest and right for you in any given moment. And this podcast is really designed to assist you in getting there, in returning home, in listening and attuning your ears and your sensations so that you know what is coming through, whether it's directly from words from your inner voice, whether it's nudges from within your body, whether it's a gut feeling, whether it's a knowing, right? Whatever it is, whether it's a sound or a vision or an urge, whatever it is, you can listen and attune to it and operate from that space. So that is what we are doing here on the Tuning In podcast. I am your host, Dana Evans at alignful.com. You can check out my website, alignful, alignful.com. And I redid that over the past few months. So I have a beautiful, bright, energetic website that I feel like matches my energy and the energy of the business a lot more. And it kind of just gives you an overview of what we're doing. Of course, we have this podcast. We also have the vitamin D newsletter. I both operate on Substack and through a traditional newsletter format where I share, when inspired, musings and things that are worth listening to, worth hearing, worth experimenting within your own body. And then I am a coach. I'm an emotions coach, specifically emotions and inner voice. and I do one-to-one work. I just completed round 2 of the emotional edit, which is a group program, which is kind of like the 101 of emotions. It teaches you my 4-step framework of learning to express, process, integrate, and regulate your emotions. And I have new things coming out. We have an audio course that is coming out. We have a winter program called Nesting, and a lot of fun things are going on behind the scenes. So this podcast will be the primary place where I communicate that, as well as my newsletter, and then on Instagram at Dana_Evans. So welcome. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. And let's talk about hermiting. So it is the beginning of November, and I just fell into a hermit mode. What happened was I was noticing I'm in a big clear out cycle. In fact, this entire year has been a big clear out cycle. Obviously, because we moved, there's a lot of clearing and shedding that happens during a move, both literally. I cannot tell you how many loads of stuff. I just could not believe how much stuff we didn't need to bring with us. And even so, I am still doing clear outs now that we've moved. So there's been a lot of literal, physical getting rid of stuff. But with that, what always comes with that is energetic and emotional clearing. We make energetic and emotional attachments to our stuff. So, one of the things that happens when we clear out stuff is that our inner stuff also starts to move, it gets dislodged. And that can bring up emotions, it can bring up bursts of energy, it can bring up lows in energy. A lot happens with this process. Actually, whenever I work with someone, I like to invite them to do clear out processes while we're doing emotional clearing work, doing the clearing in the physical space, because it becomes such a beautiful representation to what you're doing in your energetic and internal space. So this entire year has been a big freaking cleanup of myself, of my life, of my stuff, of my body, all of it. And the emotional stuff has been in and out, but it peaked in October when I was doing the launch of my program, the Emotional Edit. This is the second time I've run it. And holy guacamole, did it bring up stuff? Like, yes, it brought up just normal launch stuff, like doubts about my offer, feeling like I couldn't communicate, feeling like I was overwhelming people with content, blah, blah, blah. Those are surface level stuff, okay? What it also brought up was a lot of freaking old stuff that needed to move out. I had memories come up out of the blue that I needed to release and process. A lot of times when old memories come up out of nowhere, I see that as they're ready to be seen and processed through your lens of who you are now. So it's a really healing process. I had a lot of anger coming up, and I really had to deeply move through that. And I was working with my coach, Lauren Armstrong, at the time. And so this was just essential for me. So I had to move through some anger that was stuck inside and had some pretty intense, deep breakdowns of like, really intense crying. I remember one day after a session with Lauren, I think it was the day that this anger was coming up. My mind wanted to talk about something with my launch, and she's like, "Okay, well, it feels like there's something else going on. Like, what's happening right now?" And I just remember feeling so seen and vulnerable in that moment. And I was like, "I'm angry." And even saying those words surprised me. I'm like, "I'm angry." And she's like, "Well, tell me about the anger." And then we moved through it somatically. And it was like those big sobbing cries that we totally moved through on the session. And then I ended up laughing and giggling and coming out on the other end. But I remember after that session looking in the mirror, and I had salt stains all over my face because I didn't have a tissue, and I was just like crying, and so much was moving out. And my husband had gotten home from a run, and whenever he runs, he gets salt stains on his skin. And I showed him, I said, "Look, you get salt stains from sweat and running." I said, "I get them from tears and crying." So that just kind of gives you an idea of the level of emotion that was shedding and moving out. And it was really powerful. It was brought up by my launch, but it was also just the right time for things to move out. It was also a time where some people who are close to me in my life were having a lot of difficulty. And I was feeling like I didn't have the same support system that I usually have. I mean, I was so grateful to be working with my coach at the time because I wasn't able to lean on the people that I normally lean on in my personal life. And that's all actually mostly resolved now, which is nice. And then I had some other stuff come up really unexpectedly. Something came up around a friendship that I have and an interaction that we had about 4 years ago that I suddenly saw through a different lens. And I had to mourn and grieve that as well and really give myself forgiveness. And later on, I actually then contacted that friend and shared that with her. And it felt really healing for our relationship as well. Oh my gosh, guys. So, like, I went through all the very logistical and mind stuff, right, earlier in the year with the actual move and like physical clear out. Then come like September, October, it got to some really intense emotional clear out. Because honestly, I was expecting myself to cry and have a lot of emotions when it came to the move, and I just didn't. And I think a big part of that was because I was so much in the like kind of masculine, like we just got to get stuff done mode, which served us very well. But it just didn't process the way I'd expected to in the moment. So that was like the mental part. Then we got into the emotions come September and October. And then in November, I shifted into like my auric, like the field greater than me and into my body, my physical body. So I had gotten the nudge to do a cleanse. And interestingly, that's something that I'm very comfortable with. I have been doing forms of cleanses for, I don't know. I think I did my first cleanse when I was in my early 20s and now I'm 35. So I've been doing that for a while. I learned Ayurveda and I would typically do an Ayurvedic kitchery cleanse at least once a year, usually around the fall. But I hadn't done one since I think 2019 or even 2018. I can't remember, but it had been a long time and it just hadn't felt right. But all of a sudden, I felt this call like it was time. My body, my very physical body, was ready to do its own purging. So I followed some nudges and reached out to someone who was the right person to reach out to. And she gave me a recommendation because I wanted to do something slightly different than I've done in the past. And she gave me the recommendation for this great company that does this parasite cleanse and it's a tea and supplements. So I ordered that. And this was coming. Let me look at the calendar because I just love how things sync up. So the 4th of November, I think, was the eclipse. So the partial solar eclipse that we could see very well here in Santa Fe. John and I walked around and had our glasses and we watched it. I could be wrong. The eclipse could have been, oh, yeah, the eclipse was on the 28th. So it was a week before. So that was like a big energy moving. And I think it was on a full moon. Okay. Then after that eclipse, I got my period. And so I had my bleed. Then on the 5th was daylight saving. So suddenly it became darker inside. And that's the day my cleanse arrived. So it's like we had the eclipse. Then I had my period. Then I ordered my cleanse. Then we had daylight savings. And then I started this cleanse. And at the same time, I'm part of a dream circle right now, which is just this beautiful practice. I did it last year with the same person, Alyssa Donato. She's the person who made my special clearing spray for the emotional edit. She's this beautiful projector, herbalist, dream weaver, medicine woman. So, what was happening in the dream sphere, we're working with this plant called mugwort. And it really is this protector, but it really helps activate your dreams. So, we're taking a tincture. I was having a lot of cleansing dreams that didn't feel so much about me, but they felt like this greater cleansing, which is why I was kind of saying like my auric field or the greater energetic shift. I'm definitely clear that part of why I'm here on this planet right now is to be facilitating clearing and processing energy that isn't mine, like other collective energies. So a lot of that happens in the dream world. So I was having these really crazy dreams, really intense dreams, dreams where I was waking up crying, dreams of big energy moving. And then I got this call to do, I ordered the cleanse and I had told Alyssa about it. And I said, I want to do a parasite cleanse. I ordered it. She said, well, that's interesting. Mugwort is a supporter of clearing out parasites. What? And then I get my tea from my cleanse and it has mugwort in it. And I just love these like little synchronicities of, yes, everything is happening at the right time as your body is ready. And it is happening so divinely. Like even the person that I reached out to, I've never taken a parasite detox that had mugwort in it. And this is a different company. And it's just so beautiful. And so I started that cleanse and it felt so good. And it was interesting because I started it on the 6th. So I'm on day 10. And the whole week before that, I just didn't want any alcohol. So I was already not having alcohol the full week. And to switch into the cleanse mode was just so easy. My body was like, yes, 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 thank you, yes. But what also happened that week, another alignment, was I had this beautifully open schedule, like nothing on my calendar. It was crazy. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday were completely wide open, not a single thing on my calendar. Thursday, I had 2 calls that were for me. And then Friday, I had a session for my emotional edit people. Everything else was wide open. And it felt like this beautiful invitation of like, I'm starting a cleanse. I'm starting to like deep clear in my body. And then all of a sudden, I also didn't have a lot of energy. So that's the beauty of timing. Had my mind decided to do the cleanse, it could have decided it anytime and it could have been not a great time. But the way my body decided, it meant the cleanse was easy and that everything in my external environment aligned so that I could do this cleanse. And it came at that shift where all of a sudden it was dark at 5 o'clock. And so my body was adjusting and adapting, and it was adapting to all of these herbs and clearing out. And it's a lot of inward energy when you're doing a cleanse, just like when you're doing emotional clearing. And of course, it's like a lot of energy when you're doing physical clearing, right? Any sort of clearing takes a lot of energy from the body. And in this particular case, the body's doing a lot of work under the surface that you can't exactly see. Like, yes, you can kind of see it. Okay. You're like going to the bathroom a lot, but it doesn't seem like work to the mind. But I was so tired. And the other thing that aligned that week is that my magical morning partner, Candace, who we usually talk every day, we send each other our messages, she was also gone. So I wasn't really messaging with her. So all of a sudden, my entire external world cleared the way for me to be inward focused. And let me tell you, that day one on Monday, I was just like in bed watching movies, just like nothing. I had nothing to give. And then the Sunday before I started the cleanse, daylight savings time, I had this crazy burst of energy and I deep cleaned my closet and organized all of my clothes and set it up for winter and my bathroom and toiletries. And gosh, if you follow me on Instagram, the toiletries is like such an ordeal for me. But I cleaned all of those out and got rid of so much and made them so beautiful and orderly. Such a big project. I cannot even tell you. But that was like everything was preparing. And then I really pushed myself through to finish that project. Then I went to sleep on Sunday night, woke up Monday to start the cleanse, and I was just full Lord. And then I basically like didn't message with people. Monday, I did go on a walk. And then Tuesday through Sunday, I didn't leave the house. Like I literally didn't leave the house. Like I didn't go on a walk. I didn't go anywhere in town. I was home. I was in my sweatpants. I was taking baths. I was in bed, I was reading, I was tired, and then I was doing inner projects in the house. As the energy came, I didn't have a lot of energy and I wouldn't have it. And then suddenly I'd have energy and I would know exactly what needed to be done and I would do it. So I got my whole entire office set up and cleaned and sorted out. I got rid of all of these boxes that had built up in our hallway. One day, I set up our new robot vacuum, but still couldn't freaking figure it out. That thing is going to be the death of me. And I was so frustrated that then I vacuumed the entire house and then vacuumed the couches and vacuumed the cushions and made the bed and cleaned the laundry room and deep cleaned the kitchen and oiled my sink, all these crazy things. These projects just came out of me. And then on Friday, I remember I was so tired during the day. And then at 3 o'clock, I got this burst of energy. And I came into my office and I just started creating. And I created the opt in page, the waitlist page for the winter January offer. I think it's going to be 4 weeks. It might be 5, but it's just a little mini group experience called nesting, where we're going to really learn about embracing the darkness, embracing winter, embracing hermiting, and seeing what expands out of that time of completely calling your energy back to yourself and going deep, dark inward. So I created the waitlist page for that. I created the sales page for this really simple offer that I have going right now. It's called Winter Maintenance. And it's 4 months for $444 a month, which is a really crazy, great investment for working with me. A single session is usually $555, but this is $444 a month. You get every month for 4 months. So $444 a month for 4 months. Every month you get a deep dive session with me, a customized clearing to work on what you need in that month that you get to listen to every day. And then you get 2 text support days with me each month where we're texting or voice memoing back and forth to work on whatever's coming up. And it's this beautiful way to just maintain and support yourself during a time that can feel dark, it can feel heavy, it can feel overwhelming, right? It can feel easy to get disconnected from your body, from your own desires, and all of that. And it's just this anchor check-in point where you have access to me, and having access to me just reminds you of who you are and what your body needs. So I created the sales page for that. I wrote this beautiful email for the vitamin D newsletter. I started this new series all about wintering and the darkness and all of that. And it was I worked from 3 to 6:30, and it's this beautiful burst of energy. And what I realized during that week is that, well, one, how many energy leaks I have, and 2, how often I seek energy leaks as distractions. And then 3, how flipping powerful it is to call your energy back, to fully and completely contain yourself. When was the last time that you, in a lot of ways, cut yourself off from all of the ping, pang, pongs of the external world? I am in constant communication with people all the freaking time, and I love it. And I recognize that sometimes I use that as a way to avoid going into the deep work, whether it's within myself, whether it's within my business, whether it's within my home or my relationship. It's so easy to be in the external. And so this very natural hermiting where everything aligned, I didn't even feel bad. I wasn't texting people back, really. I wasn't doing phone calls. I wasn't sending voice memos. For some reason, my clients, that was an off week for, so I didn't need to be checking in with clients. I didn't even have coaching calls for myself. It was just me in my home with my cat. I mean, John was here too, but it was this really powerful experience of cutting myself off. The visual I'm getting is drawing the curtains around the entire house and containing, cocooning myself within my home. And during the cleanse, it was really simple. I made just these really simple meals of cooked vegetables, cooked rice, cooked beans. I wasn't having almost any stimulants or depressants, right? No alcohol. I was having just the tiniest sip of coffee, maybe 1 ounce of coffee. No sugar spikes, no carb spikes of like having chips or candy or chocolate. And so it was like this really deeply steadying, grounding, anchored time. And while my energy was definitely on a low, I was not in a low. So I wasn't sad. I wasn't depressed. I wasn't feeling heavy feelings, though that can come up when you're in an inner winter, when you're in a cocoon or hermiting time. And it's perfectly fine when they do. You just kind of surrender to them and let it overcome you. But I also wasn't in a place of judgment. And I think that is because I was doing the cleanse. I had more grace and compassion for myself. I was like, well, I'm doing a cleanse. So, like, my body, of course, I'm not going to feel 100%. Of course, I'm not going to have the energy to do all the things I normally would. So, it took me actually a few days to realize that I was not just doing a cleanse, but I was in a deep hermiting mode that my body needed to restore and reset and recalibrate. I didn't know that was happening at first. It's only after the fact, after I came out, that I realized, oh, that is what was going on. But thankfully, because of the cleanse and because of the open schedule and because of everything that aligned, my mind was also really willing to give myself space and grace to just be. So I took the downtime. I laid on the couch. I laid on my heat mat. Oh my God, my biomat. Mia loves it. I love it. It's this crystal heat mat. It's so magical. I spent so many hours on that. I just read fun, easy to read books. I watched shows when it felt good. I lit candles. I played really lovely music in the house. It felt really good to play music. I made cacao and tea and tended to myself. I did dry brushing and lymphatic drainage, which are two actually quite important things when you're doing a cleanse to like help continue to move the stuff that like needs to come out to help move it out. I took baths and it was just so gentle and so deep and so nourishing and so soothing. And I really, truly, deeply felt the shift in my energy to one that was more steady and anchored and calm. And it felt so good. And I was off Instagram the whole week. I wasn't checking my phone constantly. I didn't have Instagram on my phone. I didn't have email on my phone. I wasn't even with my phone all the time. And then I would check in, right? I checked in when my emails or whatever, when I felt like it. But it was like I wasn't in this place of constantly responding. So I really do think everyone could benefit from this to whatever extent they're able to, whether it's a weekend, whether you, I don't know, go check yourself into a hotel room for 2 days and 1 night and tell everyone, like, "Look, I'm in the hotel. I'm fucking fine. Leave me the fuck alone." That's kind of how I feel sometimes. I'm like, "Leave me alone, but don't leave me." Right? That's like my human design, my 2-4 profile. The 2 is the hermit, the 4 is the socialite. So I am always in between, like, wanting to be completely left alone and wanting to, like, connect and be with people. But, there is such deep benefit to this because what I was able to do at home, what I was able to create, what clarity kind of clicked in for me was only possible because I plugged all of the energy leaks. And look, I think energy leaks, like, we can think about that as like they're problems, right? And a lot of times they are. Like, we waste a lot of time and energy. I'm terrible, right? I get sucked into Instagram really quickly. That's why I delete it from my phone like every other day, because if it's not deleted, I get sucked into it. I have so many energy leaks. But energy leaks are like anytime your energy is leaving you. So even phone calls, like I missed so many calls and I just couldn't. I didn't even text people back to say I can't talk right now. Like I just put myself on minimal viable effort. It was like I turned the volume all the way down and I just let it be that way. I didn't feel pressure. And I don't know why that was. Probably because my mind's like, I'm doing a cleanse and that's all I need to focus on. But I do find, and you might find this for yourself, that a lot of times I respond because I feel like I should or I have to, or they're going to wonder if I don't, right? But there's this deep freedom. Sure, you can communicate this to people ahead of time, like, hey, I'm taking the weekend off. So, like, don't expect to hear from me. There's this deep freedom of receiving messages and not needing to respond until you feel like you can. until you feel like it's time, till it feels good. Think about your days and like how much you're responding to energetically. It's like we respond to what we read, we respond to what we listen to, we respond to text messages, we respond to emails, we respond to Instagram stories, we respond to Instagram DMs, we respond to YouTube comments, we respond to our partners, we respond to phone calls, we respond to friends, we respond to clients, we respond blah, 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 blah. We respond to our animals. And it can be deeply exhausting if it's not in alignment and if you're needing to pause. So, like, when was the last time you had a day where you just didn't respond to things? Oh my God. And I get a lot of downtime in my life, but this was just radically different than anything I've ever experienced. And I have a suspicion that because I allowed this of myself, like my body guided me toward this and I listened fully. I followed the nudges into all the things that led me to this past week. And again, I would like to point out that I am still emerging. I have by no means like fully gotten back into the world. I did post a little bit on Instagram. I did go on a walk this morning, my first walk in 7 days. I did call my mom yesterday and chatted with her. Things are happening again, but in no means am I like fully back into like full on any mode because I'm kind of once you pare everything back, you can intentionally bring things back in, right? Just like when you clean out your closet, it's like you pull everything out, you put it into categories, you get rid of what is not needed, you move what is no longer useful or what no longer belongs, and then you put it back in an orderly and organized fashion with intention and you choose. So that's what I'm doing with my output of energy. But I do believe because I chose to listen, right, to listen to my body, that this is going to keep me healthy. And I hear this in my work so often, right? It's like, yes, my work is emotions, but what it really is listening to your body. And your emotions are the language of the body. Emotions and sensations are one of the key ways that your body is communicating with you, right? Whether it's flutters in the belly, tightness in the chest, a pain in your neck or your knee, aching, soreness, being pulled forward, being stuck, feeling like you can't move, feeling like intensity in one place or the other that needs to move out. It's our body's way of communication. As we learn to attune and listen to it, we get really good at letting it lead and guide us. And the body is always leading and guiding you toward your highest expression of health and well being. And when we ignore that, when we let the mind trump the body, well, that's when we get sick or injured or hurt, or when we get really pent up emotions. So I suspect that if I didn't allow for this week to happen, something would have happened that would have made this happen anyway on my body's terms instead of my own. These were my terms. I got to enjoy my week. I got to rest. I got to watch shows. I got to clean. I got to do work. I got to play and just be. If I didn't allow that, I don't know what would have happened, but I suspect I would have gotten sick and then I would have been stuck in bed and I wouldn't have had energy. It would have been a harder way to experience a week off, right? You're going to have to take the week off regardless or the day off regardless. It's just what expression and experience do you want to have during that? Do you want one that you choose or do you want one that was forced upon you? And to close this out too, on Monday, so 8 days into the cleanse, I was like, I feel kind of done with this and I feel terrible all of a sudden. Like Sunday, I felt foggy and exhausted. I woke up on Monday and I opened my eyes and I was like, shit. You know that feeling where like you wake up and you already know you're exhausted? I even slept well that whole night. That was how I felt on Monday. And I was so foggy. I had brain fog. I was tired. My mood was low. I was like, oh, everything felt impossible. And I'm like, I think my body is kind of done with the cleanse. It's supposed to be 14 days, but like what's going on? And I kind of deduced that I needed more food and protein. So instead of what I would have done in the past, instead of rigidly following it because of the arbitrary 14-day cleanse protocol, I followed my body, right? My body guided me towards the cleanse. It felt great the first 7 days. It was perfect. And then day 8, it was like, this is no longer good. And so I acknowledged that and I determined that, oh, I need more protein. So I made this delicious, mostly cleanse-friendly soup last night, but I added meat. It was like ground venison and beef. And I ate that really mindfully and intentionally and with love, knowing it was supporting me. And I kid you freaking not, I woke up this morning and felt great. And I was like, oh my God, I feel good. I went on my walk. I saw the sunrise. I played with Mia this morning. I'm recording a podcast. Like I just felt so much more clarity and ease. Is it because of I had the meat, or is it because I gave myself permission to listen to my body? And then another thing I did, I'm still continuing to take the herbs, but I'm adding in a few more things. So I did have a piece of local delicious sourdough this morning and a midday square. So I had those. In the past 7 days, you don't eat anything until 11, but my body was not liking that now. So I had those in the morning. So it's like by listening to your body, by coming out of the hermit mode, I was even more and more clear and connected to my body. And it only took me one day to be like, oh, right, I don't have to push through. I get to continue to adapt this so that it serves me the best way. So that is the beauty of hibernation. That is the beauty of turning your energy fully inward and toward yourself. And it also shows the layers of clear out. We have physical, we have emotional, and then we have like the body. And all of them are valid and they all are concentric circles that work together. But when you're willing to go there, you're really going to find your body is going to continue to speak and respond to you because it wants to show you the best way for you in this moment. So with that, I hope you are able to find your own hermiting experience. I would love to hear. And if you loved this episode, please share with someone who would appreciate it. And of course, rating me on iTunes is so helpful. And until next week, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for joining me in another episode of the Tuning In podcast. If you loved this episode, please rate and review it or share it with a friend. If you want to go deeper into the realm of emotions and learn the language of your body, check out my audio course, Emotions Decoded, at alignful.com/audio. As always, you can follow along with my journey on Instagram at Dana_Evans. See you next week.